like that song.
I do. So cute.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? We're so sorry. We were having some things going on.
And by we, she means me. I am on a different laptop. Does it look different? I feel like it looks different because
You're a
my
little darker, but
I
like your
know.
whole
I'm
like
like,
background and everything is darker.
yeah. I'm like, do I need to actually turn on lights now? I'm not used to this, so I might go
I
off
don't
cam
know.
for a second, turn on just to see if I can adjust lights.
Okay. Yeah, we had a little computer glitchies, but as Nia said, it's off to HP or it's off to the Geek Squad.
Yeah, the Geek Squad has my
Oh,
laptop,
my
so I am
fly.
on le backup right now. So
At least you have a backup. Like, oh
I
my gosh.
know.
I well, I probably could use my father's computer if something happened here, but it would be a whole moment. So, welcome to Small Town World. We are just hanging out. We talk about small towns, how to put them together, how to build them. While Nia's figuring out her background, I'm going to go through the chat really fast, and then we're going to do some introductions, and then we will get into how Small Town World works. Oh, you're brighter. Yes.
Yeah,
So we had, yeah, I love it. Okay, so we had Dreaming of Truth
I'm
that came in.
also blinded.
Hi.
I'm blinded though.
Oh no. We have Angel Faye that said hi, JC who said why hello there, Esther who said hey you or hey who. And then JC said Esther, and then I was telling them that we're running a touch late, and then Sky came in and said hello. To which JC said hello to Sky, and then there was a oh shoot, I just realized I didn't read your message yet. And then Jennifer came in and said hi, and then this is my tone. We had a few things going on, few tech problems, yes. And Sky was like, that's okay, Tiff. These things happen. Do what you gotta do. Gremlins doing mischief, absolutely.
Oh, Miss
And then everybody was all excited to see us. They were like, there you are, beautiful friends. Morgan came in and said hello. And let's see. Lay back up because Nia's
yeah.
backup happens to be in French. So this is what we do. And then of course our beautiful Regina came in and said hello friends. Had to put the groceries away. So if you guys have not been here before, oh, and Dolores came in and said hi. Small Town World, we do this a little bit like a podcast format. So we generally talk about the topics. Feel free to add and talk in the chat. If you have any questions, please put a question or a Q next to them so we can mark them, because we take like the last, we say 10 to 15 minutes, but we might go a little over that when we start answering questions and get into all the good stuff. So I'm going to let Nia go ahead and introduce herself, and then I will introduce myself, and then we will jump into the topic of today, or le topic of today, since we're going French.
It's funny. Tiffany is learning French. I am learning Italian. Hi, I'm new to Vixen Fiction all over the internet. I host the live streams on Tuesday nights here on YouTube. I also stream on Twitch. Probably not this week because I don't have the good computer. But I have a book coming out called The Fairy Stepmother Wish, and the other book is already out. It's called The Art of Wishcraft. They are cozy romance with a little bit of magic, a little bit paranormal. They're sweet. They're short. They're a little spicy, but we close the door. So if that piques your interest, go ahead and check those out. I'm a mom of four and a Loki mom, and I write things and I draw things. That's me.
And you're on my channel, TLS Lifestyle. I also have a book coming out soon this next week as well. So called
Yeah.
Sailing with the Boss. And I think we're release date buddies. So it's Sailing with the Boss.
Yep.
And where Nia closes the door, I kick that sucker right open. I do PJs and Scribbles every other week on this channel, live streams, and generally Saturday shorts this month, Saturday, Shorts had to take a back seat. Next month is still up in the air, so we shall see. Um, and we hang out and talk all things small town world. And today we are talking about adding landmarks to your small town. You don't necessarily have to add them, but if you would like to add them, we're going to tell you kind of how we do a little bit of that with our towns. So, Nia Blink. Is she frozen, guys? Are you frozen? Is she frozen? No. Okay, she's moving. Yay! Maybe?
Oh my goodness.
Okay,
I'm
there she
thinking, okay. I may have to restart this one. So I do this thing where I don't restart my computers. And so this one's been on since we were streaming yesterday, and I'm like, oh, I should have probably also restarted it before because it's on
Okay.
the struggle bus right now.
Well, if you have to go
So
and
I may
restart
do
and then
that.
come back, do you need to go and restart and come back?
Yeah, and then we can kick it off. You can just. I feel like I want to go ahead and do that because I feel like it's going to just keep doing that until I get annoyed.
Okay. So
And
I
I'd
can
rather
go
do it now than. Yep, and I will be right back, guys. See you in a minute or two.
Oh my gosh, Nia is so fun. I know, Regina. I don't always restart my computer. That's so great. Well, like I said, we're going to talk about adding landmarks to your small town. So, first off, I think the idea should be what's considered a landmark because, like, I obviously live in St. Louis. I think I've mentioned that. We have the Arch. That's considered a landmark. But there are other things like there's a statue in our main park that is also asked to me anything section. I mean, I guess we could just do a Q&A until Nia gets back and then we could jump into it if that's what you guys wanted to do. I think Esther, she just came back. She's like, wait, where's Nia? Yeah, she went to go restart her laptop because she's on like a backup laptop, Esther, because we had a few gremlin issues. And so it kept looking like she was freezing, but we weren't positive. So she went to go check that and see if maybe that is what it is. What is my favorite landmark? Sky wants to know. Are we talking in my city or just in general? Because I feel like, and this is gonna sound really weird because I'm afraid of heights, but I almost feel like all of my favorite landmarks, if we're talking everywhere, is like really tall things, like the Sears Tower in Chicago, or like the Eiffel Tower in Paris, or like the mountains in Colorado. So all of my favorite landmarks are really tall things. You would think that they wouldn't be with the Fair Heights, but if we're talking in St. Louis, I don't know if a lot of people would consider it a landmark, but I do, and that is our one of our parks. There is a outdoor theater area, and in front of it there is like this little pond, and not so much the pond's cool, but in the middle of the pond you can't get to it, so I don't know why I'm obsessed with this thing, but it's like a little gazebo in the middle of the pond, and I just think it's the coolest thing. I don't know why. um, you can't get to it, you can't, like, nobody's ever in it, there's nothing going on with it. Every time I go to the park, I photograph it because I just think it's like the funnest thing. So I don't know. Go figure. But for me, that's probably one of my favorite landmarks in St. Louis. There's a few others that I like, but yeah, that's one of my favorites. JC asked, "Are you allowed to use an actual landmark in a fictional town just to give a point of reference, or is that a no-no?" Well, number one, if it's a fictional town, chances are there wouldn't be a a full landmark in your town. But I have used, and I think other people have used, some other books that I've read have used it, that you can, like my town butts up against a state park. So you can do that, I believe, or like a national park. Like Regina is saying you can use like the Grand Canyon or Lake Michigan, but include a statement in your front matter, the one that says this book is a work of fiction and all places are used in a fictional manner. That sort of disclaimer. I think you can do that, or like you can reference, like I think in one of my books, somebody's going to Denver. So I think you can reference things in that way. Like if you're like, oh, we're going on a road trip to the Grand Canyon, type of a something like that. But I wouldn't use, what do you say? Like, for example, say you're writing a fictional town that's close to, say, DC, and you want to use the monument to reference the distance between places, something like that is what I mean. I easily, like I say for Peach Ridge, I talk about people coming from Atlanta all the time because that's kind of my point of reference for how long or how far away from like something that people know and is real is where we're at. But I also looked up where that state park is in order to do it. I read a book recently. It was set in Colorado, and it was one of my favorite like books series that I read like recently because I knew all the places. Like they were in Idaho Springs, and they were going out to Steamboat to go ski, and they were in Aspen for something. And I was like, I know all the places, but they didn't, like in Steamboat Springs, there is a water wheel right next to this lake. They did not talk about the water wheel or the lake. And I think the water wheel has a specific name. I'm not positive. I know the lake does. And they didn't reference the water wheel or the lake. So if that gives you a sense. But if you're saying, it takes like 15 minutes to get to DC, or it takes like, we're going to the monument, so we're packing a lunch because it's a bit of a drive, then I think you're fine in that scenario. So yeah. Yeah, like Esther said, like it took me 3 hours to drive to Landmark here. Absolutely. And again, as Sky said, don't do anything well, I can say that word, deflammatory, to it. So yeah. Oh, and Sky saying she does that too, to give people a sense of where the town is. Yeah. And I think it also helps you because then you know where your town is, in relation to like certain places. Because if you do the type of small towns that research that Nia and I do, like what was it? I was writing something yesterday, and I was doing it's set because I'm in my fall series, so it's set in the fall, but it's a mountain town, and I've been to this town, but not in the fall, and so I actually had to look up like that area to see what the temperature would be like. So would they have on a coat because it is a mountain town? Sometimes it gets colder faster, or if they would have on a jacket, or if it would be a sweater because of the time frame that I was looking it up. And the website that I found, which was Chef's Kiss, I don't even know how I found this one. They listed out like the average temperatures like in months. So they were like, September, the average temperature is this. Like October, the average temperature is this. November, the average temperature is this. And I was like, yes. So yay. Oh, Nia says she's getting back slowly, but she's gonna come back. We're almost sure. If not, I'll just sit here and chat. I think I could do that. Esther asked, do you link families to landmarks? You can, and I love that idea. So the reason why I love that idea is because let's say you have a small town and you have what is it? Like a founding family. And the mayor of the was like the person who like petitioned to have the town do whatever. And so they put up a landmark for that for that dude, like linking that to a town family, I think is a great idea. If they put up a statue or like they donated a building or something to that person and then you link it to the family, I guess kind of in a little bit of a way, something like that. I don't consider this a landmark. I consider it more of a business in my town. But the horse saloon used to be like an actual saloon with like the saloon girls and all the oldest profession in the world is what we're saying, going on, and it was like the building blocks of Peach Ridge, if you will. It's like one of the like the argument is there were only two places that were really in town before it was a town. It was the saloon and the orchard. And so there's a debate between both families of who came first and who's like the bigger name in the town. But it is linked to Miss Jolene, who now runs the it's a horse saloon now, as opposed to like still a saloon. And so I have it linked to that person. So I think that those are kind of great ways of doing certain things where you're linking it to people. I do mention the old prison located outside of Canyon City, but I don't name it. I will sometimes do that as well. Like I'll mention certain Jolene. Uh, I will do that as well. Like mention certain things, but just not name it. Like there is a character in a book coming up whose last name is Hackett, and she's a nurse. And so her friends tease her because if you know is it One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or something like that with Jack Nicholson, and the nurse is Nurse Ratchet. And so when I specifically named her last name Hackett, so that when she starts to get on their nerves, all I have them say is like, I think I put RAC, and then she cuts them off. And I have the person thinking about how they like make fun of her because of that nurse that's in that Jack Nicholson movie. And I don't name the movie, but I just like that Jack Nicholson movie with the crazy nurse that everybody talks about. So people kind of get a sense of what it is, but I don't say what it is, type of a thing. So like, why the nurse gotta be Ratchet? Ooh, Ratchet Hackett. That would be good too. Let's see. In the wedding wager, I established that the Feynman family locate or donated land to the town. They have a huge ranch called the Rocking Eagle. That's a good one too. I'm going to give you a real life example that's similar to what Regina just said. There is a place in Colorado called Garden of the Gods. And I didn't know this until recently when we went to go visit. It actually is land that was donated by a specific man that used to live in Colorado. He's since passed. He's passed like quite some time ago. But in his will, he wanted it to be always like he donated to the city for it to be free and for it to be used as this like park, if you will. And so they have a huge plaque on one of the rocks that like I don't remember if it lists out his family or it mentions that his family, in respect of what it is that he wanted and his wishes, like donated actually more land to the town as long as they agree to always keep it a free park. And so that's like a way that you can link it to like a landmark to a family or to people in town, is something like that. So yeah, that was a really long explanation for that. Nia needs to get back. I run off on tangents. Like Dolores, crazy nurses. What did I come back to? We were talking about how to name things but not name things. Dolores. Regina said one of my romance couples went there on a day-long date. I love Garden of the Gods. Like if you ever get a chance to go, it might be one of the most beautiful places. Maybe that's one of my favorite landmarks. It's gorgeous. Like just and it's just rock formations. Like it's not doing a lot. It's a lot of walking. But it's a beautiful spot. It just really is. It's gorgeous. It's one of my favorite places to visit when I go to Colorado. And if you do go, do yourself a favor, go to the gift shop. We're not worried about gifts and rocks and uh what is it, like gifts, like the gifts, the t-shirts, the cups, the mugs, the rocks, all the different stuff that they sell. That's all great. Postcards, if you want to get those, whatever. They have this fudge, y'all. I don't know where they're getting this fudge from. I don't know who's in the back making it. I don't know if they're buying it from some other store. I have no idea where this fudge is coming from, but the cookies and cream fudge, when I tell you, that's what you're going to want to get. And the chocolate and caramel. Now, I've heard the chocolate and peanut butter is good. I'm one of those weird people that don't like chocolate with peanut butter. Judge me if you want, whatever. But I have heard it's good. When I tell you this fudge is a life-altering experience, maybe not quite that much, but it is so good. So if you ever want to include Garden of the Guys in your story, have them go get the fudge. They will not be sorry. Neither will you. It is amazing. Amazing fudge. Nia did say, yes, I look up the temperatures too. Esther also said searching for temperatures is almost a must. It absolutely is. Please don't do random things with your temperatures. And do we? Maybe? You're muted.
Yes, I'm like, I think so. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Guys, we may have a Nia back.
All right. Yeah, this computer takes forever to start up, but it's a backup. I'm going to count my blessings.
Yay! Okay. Oh, Esther said, not Esther, Regina said, I love Garden of the Guys. I went with my editor before my hip gave out. Yeah, it's a lot of walking. So, if you have like some body things, take a friend or a chair or a cane or something. So yes. Esther said unless you want characters to be walking in shorts and flip-flops during winter. And you know what's hilarious, Esther, is you actually could do that, because I have a cousin. We make fun of her all the time. But it'll be like 30 something degrees outside. She'll walk in some flip-flops and some shorts and a sweatshirt of all things.
That's my husband. And if you do something like that, have fun with it. Make that part of that character's characteristics.
Yeah. Oh, Sky is like, side note, I just realized I don't think my town has any landmarks. Oh. And then she's like, time to recreate my map. So I was just saying, like, landmarks can be some of anything. It just kind of depends on the kind of historical significance you give to it, or town significance that you give to it. Because you want to make sure there has to be a reason it's a landmark. It can't just be like this random building that you're like, oh yeah, that's the landmark, and there's no real something with that.
Yeah. And if you can't come up with anything, like you're like, I kind of want something special, you can say, so I'm in North Carolina, we have a lot of these. This was the first building here, and people will just be like, oh, look at that old raggedy building. It's the first building that was ever here in this town. Nobody uses it for anything. Well, kids might go in there and play around in it when they're not supposed to be, but it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to give it some type of something to make it a landmark. You also, I think, at least for me, as far as a landmark, I like quirky landmarks. Like, I love when I can give it some type of something, but be like, maybe people like have a joke about it, or maybe people like are like, oh yeah, that's just that.
Like it'd be funny if you live in like an old like oil rig town. You could say Bessie Mae. She finally got back at that old cuss. He was always whooping on her, and she got him back. She went to go bury him in the backyard and struck oil.
Oh my god, that would be great. And that's the first one, and she built it right on top of his body. You know, or also like if you have kind of a what is it like we have a lot of crazy little, like, we're not even a, what people would consider Missouri a western town, if you will. Yet we have so many places that's like, oh, that's where Jesse James did this, or that's where, you know, this cowboy did that, like in Missouri. And it's really, um, and it doesn't have to just be like one place, because um like if you think about, okay, I wouldn't connect something to this, but if you think about something like the Trail of Tears, or
Mhm.
like Lewis and Clark, like their expedition, you know, like that goes across many states. So
Yes.
you could, again, I wouldn't
Even though
connect.
we are first in flight, I'm just saying.
There you go. So I wouldn't have like maybe your strip of land, you're like, oh, this is part of the Lewis and Clark Trail. I wouldn't do that. But if you wanted to come up with like your own guided tour that went across the US or something,
Yeah.
you could do something like that. Or your own, like, oh, well, this is like our road through the park. This is where the cattlemen drove the first, you know, leg of something that ended up being like the biggest ranch in Texas. I don't know.
And I bring up the first in flight one because everybody kind of like teases North Carolina because we technically got that first in flight, even though the aviators who did it weren't from North Carolina. And then South Carolina also tries to claim it a little bit because they're like, well, when they were flying, we're like, no, it's ours. So you can come up with actual funny stories like that.
Yeah.
Where there's a rivalry over whose landmark is it, or
Yeah. And you can even, like, I was telling I don't remember who exactly. I don't remember if you were on the backstage, Nia, or what. My father's family is from this small town in Tennessee whose claim to fame is that that's the birthplace of the Klan. Uh,
I mean, yeah,
but
that,
the
but
great part is they have a building there that has a plaque on it that says it. However, up under the plaque, they added another plaque because apparently that is one of the places where they turned into an Obama like polling place when he was running in 2008.
you
So
gotta
you
love
can
it.
always do like random stuff like that in your town where it's like, you know, maybe it's something that people go, but what? And then you go back and you're like, wait, what? So yeah, it is a complicated history, Esther. It's hilarious when we go back to visit, because both my father and I do genealogy. When we go back to visit and like we have all the questions for our family that's down there, it's hilarious. Like the older people, to hear them talk about like how the town was and how it's
Mhm.
progressed and everything. So yeah, it's a weird spot. But
Yeah.
yeah, you can turn almost anything into a landmark without it necessarily having to have.
A significant meaning.
Well, I was more thinking like okay, like the arch. Everybody and their mother knows the
Yeah.
arch, you know, or like rest in peace, the Trade Center. You know, everybody knew the Trade Center, or Empire State Building, you know, the Hollywood sign. Like these are huge things that everybody knows. But there are so many like landmarks that are significant to like towns or like cities or like people that
Mhm.
not a lot of folks know. And so that's what I meant when I was saying like it doesn't necessarily have to have that type of significance or that type of connotation. It could just be significant to the characters and the people in your town.
Yeah. Um, Did we want to talk about that? Sometimes those landmarks don't have to be built; they could be natural as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So if you have a waterfall or a creek, maybe that's full of bass, and there's like to where everybody goes to get their bass fishing done. Small town stuff, guys. Um, if you have, I love lighthouses. I'm a Carolina girl.
Lighthouse.
I can never get enough of a lighthouse.
Oh,
They're
lighthouse.
all landmarks to me. I hate to
They
see.
are.
They are. I hate to see a lighthouse fall into disrepair. So there's lighthouses. There are for if you want built things, but then you might maybe there's an island and a
Mm.
rando little island. We have an island here off the coast where they call the shackle for horses that are on this island. People will just go to see that. It's a natural landmark, and then people go to see the island and the horses. So it doesn't
Great for
have to
that
be
too.
something built.
I used one of the islands off of South Carolina, I think it was, in a story.
Hmm.
So yeah, like look around wherever you're setting your town because you might be able to find some history that you can kind of incorporate into your thing. Like I mentioned, the Garden of the Gods. That's a natural, rock formation of epic proportions.
Yep.
So you can. Sorry, I just looked down. This guy's like, "Oh, I do have landmarks. Crisis averted." I couldn't stop myself
They're
from laughing.
touristy things. Often landmarks are touristy things.
Yes,
Yes.
they are very much touristy things, and that's another thing to consider. Um, because okay, Sky's like, "Oh my god, I have to have a landmark," but is your town something that is a touristy something? Because you may not need to have a landmark in your town. Like you just may need something that's significant to the town. Or maybe you don't even need that. Maybe y'all just tear everything down
Hmm. And that could
and
be a point of
build new
contention.
things. So that is something to consider as well. Like I would say if you do have like some tourism in your town, it might help to have at least maybe a random house that I don't know Bessie Lou shot her husband in, or why do
Mm.
we keep killing our husbands today?
I don't know. It's a thing.
Maybe Bessie Lou.
Maybe Bessie Lou became famous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff on Jim Henson, but there's the little town that he was born in Mississippi. They have done something with his what original house or what was left of his original house, and it's just a little thing that nobody thinks about until you're passing through and you're like, oh, Jim Henson. Let's go
Hmm.
check it out. And they do, and it's really cute. But it could be
Um,
something very that simple. I think even the Jackson 5 house that they grew up in is kind of like blocked off, or maybe they moved it or something. So you can have a
um,
famous person that's famous to your story, and that used to be their house, and maybe it's a little shack, maybe it's a big mansion. Who
Molly
knows?
Brown. Denver has the Molly Brown house. It's a huge thing.
Hmm.
Uh, and St. Louis has the Shaw House. Nobody knows Shaw except for St. Louis folks. And in all fairness, I've been out of school so long I can't even tell you what Shaw did. I knew it when I was in school because they tell us about it. Uh, but I'm like now I don't have a clue. I don't remember what he did. I just know he has a house.
Louisa May Alcott, that's a house I would like to go see someday.
Hmm.
She's got a house, the house that she grew up in, and I'm like, it's just a place people like to see.
Yeah. And you could even okay. So it was a fan fiction story, but it was a cross country, like these people were driving across country. I don't know if you guys know, there is a where they built the what is it? Field of Dreams. The field for the Field of Dreams movie. They actually have that where people can go visit. And so you can make up your own movie that somebody came, they filmed something in in your town here, boom, landmark. There you go. Just made something. Um, same with I think the courthouse that they did A Time to Kill. That is now considered a landmark in that town. So again, you could do that. And that's like a doesn't even have a historical significance. That just has a nowadays significance.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, you could even have a place in your town, and you could say if such and such movie, you could totally make up the movie was filmed here, was filmed right over there. You do,
mhm,
you could just have fun, do
yeah,
things.
enjoy. Um I'm gonna jump into because we do have a couple of questions. Unless wait a minute, was there something else that you wanted to say?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Because we can always come back and we rattle when we start getting into
Yeah,
getting into questions.
yeah. 'Cause I
Um
didn't hear all of the conversation that you were having because between talking to my son and trying to get the computer back up, so I was like dotting in trying to hear what you guys were talking about. But I missed a lot, so I don't want to repeat.
uh Felicia said, or the haunted mines that shut down 30 years ago because of
Mm-hmm.
mysterious deaths. Yeah.
Yep.
That would be think of what is it? The River Phoenix movie. Oh, Stand by Me.
Yeah. Oh,
They're off to go find the body and everything. Like if you had like, some kids or some people and they were like going off to find the mine to find out what really happened. Yes,
mhm.
that would be a great type of a conversation. JC had a question. Can a town itself be the landmark? Like if it's a touristy town, can it be the landmark in say Colorado?
It could be a tourist town. I
Yeah.
don't. The town could be a landmark in the sense that like see, it's kind of tricky because Williamsburg, like people think of towns like that, New York City, LA, but the whole place isn't necessarily a landmark, but it could be famous, well known, someplace people
Yeah.
want to go to.
Like I
But
was thinking, like you mentioned Williamsburg, but I was actually thinking like Gettysburg.
mhm,
Like the town is known, the town is famous for it, for something,
yeah,
but the town isn't the landmark. It's just
yeah.
that it's famous for something. Or like where Jesse James
So
died
yeah,
in
same with
Missouri. I
Jamestown.
can't
Well,
always remember the name,
Jamestown,
but
but that's because everybody kind of like
right. Or like Salem, like everybody
yeah,
knows Salem. But
yeah.
again, the town isn't the landmark. Like there's
It's just
landmarks
where
in the town.
yeah, it's just
The
where
town
the
is just
thing happened.
famous. So I think that would be more, because like you're mentioning, like Aspen and Vale are huge. Okay, so here's the story. Vale is very popular for skiing. Like most people know Aspen and Vale. They don't know any other skiing in Colorado. Since you mentioned Colorado, is very it's huge. My father came to visit me, and we had to go to Vale because he wanted to see where an Olympic ice skater had came and performed with the Stars on Ice, like back in like 1990 something. She went to the University of Boulder, like we or Colorado Boulder. We could have gotten there faster, but no, he wanted to see this specific place in Vale. For him, that's a landmark. But Vale isn't the landmark. Vale is just the famous city. So I think that's the significance, I guess, is the difference there between the two. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not positive that the city can be a landmark. Sky also said that's a good trope too, or theme where the rich guy development company wants to tear down the
Mhm.
landmark and falls for both the small town and the advocate. Always good. I believe it's on Hallmark every other week.
Yeah. Yep.
But it is a good, like it definitely is a good trope.
Mhm.
We also have the Jackson 5 house, and that whole street is considered a landmark. It is so small.
It is just your
And
little old regular old ranch
all
house.
them kids. Dear God. It is tiny. And all them people in the house. Lord help us. Bob Marley's house in Jamaica. So yeah, like you easily were showing you can do houses or random stuff. In the town my mom was raised in, there was a building called the Little Red Schoolhouse that most people in surrounding cities know, but no longer exists. People use it as a location reference. So yeah, definitely options. Anna Palmer's house is a landmark in Jamaica, and it's just because of an old witch folklore. Always good, especially if you're doing paranormal, you know. Um, and to get into that, what do you? Because I know you have a little bit of magic going on in your stories.
Mm.
What do you think? Because I know sometimes with smaller towns, um, would you consider this a landmark? They'll have like a certain place where they'll say like this is maybe, like maybe some famous witch died there, or maybe some coven did something there. Would you consider that necessarily a landmark? Because they'll call it like it's this great source of power.
Yeah, it'd be like Stonehenge,
Mm.
something like that. It would be in that vein where we aren't there. We don't know what really was going on, but we know something was going on, and then legend says, and it's passed
Mhm.
on. So absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, so things like that can be a landmark that's considered a power source type of something if you do paranormal. JC agrees with you. I used to want to visit where they filmed Little House on the Prairie, but I believe it no longer exists. Oh, did they tear it down? Because I thought it was still there. I haven't looked in a really long time, so I can't tell you. But let's see. Morgan said, or what if it is a really old town? That would be a landmark, wouldn't it? I think, and this guy's like a town called Christmas. Uh, I, in my opinion, I'm gonna let Nia kind of speak to this as well. I think, like, if it were say like a ghost town that maybe nobody still lived in, I could see that being a town that's a landmark. I don't know if I would say just because it's a tourist town, or that if there's still people there. I don't know if I would necessarily consider the town the landmark. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what. Yeah, I don't know that I would consider the town a landmark unless it's like was what was the Alamo? Was it the Alamo wasn't a whole area, it was just that one little space.
Yeah, I think it was
I
just that space.
I'm trying to think of something where the entire town.
But Regina does also say Virginia City, is that Nevada? Is a
Mhm.
national historical landmark.
Oh,
So apparently there is a city that's a historical landmark.
so then with Washington DC, is that a historical landmark?
Ooh.
Now I must look this up.
I know. I'm like, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, ooh, now I want to go down a rabbit hole. Uh,
'Cause
uh,
I was thinking on the same vein with Williamsburg. I'm like, people go to Williamsburg just to experience Williamsburg, and I
mhm.
couldn't think. But is the whole town, a landmark? Hmm.
But you also, because that also, like you said it, I was thinking, like people go to Nashville,
Mm-hmm. But it's
because it's
Nashville.
considered like,
It's a cap.
the heart
No,
of country,
yes, the heart
or
of
like heart of
country
country
music.
music and everything. But is the town really considered a landmark?
Same thing
Because I
with
know there's plenty of landmarks there.
New Orleans. Is New Orleans considered a land?
Ooh.
Hmm.
Y'all, we got questions now. You have
I know.
stumped us. We want to go researching. And y'all know, Nia and I are great researchers. Y'all may have just thrown us off for like a week. uh, uh, oh, Sky said, oh, they leaned into it in Jamaica. People go there just to see it and tour it, and they
Mhm.
swear they see Annie in her bedroom brushing her hair and all her dang husband she killed on the prop. Good Lord. No, they actually used
Okay.
explosives to blow it up. Re Little House on the Prairie House. Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, so from what I'm seeing as I look it up is that the landmarks are actually the things in the city,
Okay.
not necessarily the cities themselves. Like, so it's giving examples: the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, the Great Wall of China, um, Mount Rushmore, Golden Gate Bridge, etc., etc.
Okay.
So that's what technically what a landmark is.
Okay. I like it. Morgan said, "What if my characters are ghosts who haunt the ghost town landmark?" um, I want to see you work this out, Morgan. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just be real. I want to see this happen. I love this for you. I don't know if I have the answer, but I love this for you. I want to see this town. To that, Felicia also said, "What about that town that the world forgot?" And that's an interesting concept. And maybe, I mean, here's the thing, and I think Nia would agree with me. I'm gonna let her speak to it. Um, it's your town and it's your world. Like, if you want your town to be a landmark, there is no rhyme or reason that says it cannot be. Just because we're looking at it as that doesn't necessarily, a town isn't necessarily the landmark. It's like the buildings inside of it. Who's to say that the ghost town or the town that people forgot or the small town where the biggest battle that nobody's ever heard of in the Civil War happened?
Mm-hmm.
You know, who's to say that that town can't be a landmark? That's on, like, if you can make that work, I look forward to reading the story. What do you think, Nia?
I mean, it could be fun. It could fun to explore. Like the whole town, just every day, the town just gets up and gets ready for people to come visit them and explore through their stuff. And
And there are town, I feel like there are towns like that. Like Branson is a huge one in Missouri. People, like, I think if tourism died up, that town would just shut down. So there are towns that are like that, where, like you're saying, it's, they get up, they get dressed, they go do that, and the tourists come rolling in. And if you have a ghost town or a town that the world forgot, and that's your thing, I say go for it. I like this idea.
yeah,
I think y'all should do it. I want to read them. Oh, Morgan does say I didn't call the town a landmark though. I'm just asking questions. Which is one of the reasons that we adore you.
yeah.
Um Sky also said, LOL, I think so because Port Royal in Jamaica is a town that's considered a landmark because a part of it collapsed in an earthquake and it has pirate lore. So it is a natural landmark.
Hmm.
Yeah. So very possible. JC does say that Washington DC is considered a cultural landmark, meaning it's the nation's capital. So yeah. And Virginia City is famous for its historical contributions, supported the North in the Civil War with its gold and silver mines. So
Yep.
awesome. And see, everybody wants to read that story, Morgan. Oh, it's in progress. Yay. Um, and Port Royal is a tiny town, though. So, well, is it still considered a town if part of it collapsed in a earthquake, or would it at this point not be, like, would it be something smaller? Like, what was the thing that we learned, the hamlets and the villages and all that, depending on how many people you have. So yeah, that would be interesting. um so anything else that we could say, as Sky did said, at this point it might be a village. Is there anything else that you can think of, Nia, that we can add to the idea of of like landmarks, like adding them, uh,
Um,
working with them?
yeah, the only thing I would say is use these landmarks to enriching your story. I would not, and this is with anything world building, as someone who has had to remind herself of this all the time. If you're not using it for anything, you have to ask yourself, are you spending more time doing something that you're not going to use at all? Or is this actually enriching either your story or enriching the interest of your fan base? So if
Mm.
you're going to be doing all of this, make sure it's not hindering you from writing the story, one, and two, make sure that you're not building up all this stuff and you're only writing one short story and then no one's ever going to see it or do any. It's just you just spent like days and days and days, doing this
No
thing
one ever goes
and
to
never even mentioning
it.
it, never even mentioning it, never showing
Mhm.
it to anybody, never using it for anything. It's not in the story, but you know, if it's your fun time and that's what you do instead of reading or watching TV, that's fine. But if it's actually during your creativity and writing time, make sure that it just make sure it has a purpose and you don't go too far down rabbit holes because they can be fun. If you're anything like me and
Oh
Tiff,
yeah.
some of our friends in the chat, it can be a lot of fun.
Sky has already said, "Stop calling me out, Nia," which I love.
If you put a
Um,
landmark in that story, use it. Use it.
yeah, and that is the thing. If you are like, give it some significance, and like I know I said that starting everything out, and maybe I didn't specify exactly. Like, yeah, you want it to have significance for why it's there and why it's a landmark, but it has to have significance in the story. Like you can't, to use your lighthouse example, like you can't have this lighthouse that you've built up this whole lore about, it used to bring in the ships at night and blah 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 and whatever, and then you write a whole 4-book series and no one ever asks anything about the lighthouse,
No one
or
goes
nobody
there.
ever goes to the lighthouse, nobody ever mentions the lighthouse, nobody ever looks at the lighthouse, like nothing happens with the lighthouse. you know and Des Lorre, we have a lighthouse in Orion Harbor. And yeah, we do have some stuff planned for where the lighthouse and the whole lore of it comes in. But like, if we didn't do that, there would be no significance for the fact that there's a lighthouse on
Mhm.
literally every cover
Yeah.
that is Orion Harbor. Like, there has to be some type of reasoning why. Don't just put it there and make and go through this whole thing of a landmark, and then if we asked your readers, they would be like, "There's a landmark
Yeah.
there."
There's a lighthouse in this story? What?
I
Yeah.
know. So yeah, JC did come up with another question. She said, when naming the landmarks that you are creating in your town, how careful do you need to be to not name it something that's too close to one that actually exists? Like, do you need to make sure that it doesn't even come close to an actual landmark, or excuse me, are you good as long as it's not named after that actual landmark? I hope that's clear.
I think you're fine as long as you're not using something
Yeah.
that's trademarked. Um,
Yeah.
it, the Yeah, I think that really the only thing you have to worry about are things that might be copyrighted or trademarked.
Yeah. I
So
mean, there
I
are
don't
certain
think
things,
you're
like,
gonna.
I wouldn't create a theme park called like Doobieland
Yeah.
as opposed to Disneyland.
Disneyland would not be a good idea. You might get
you know?
get some eyes on you. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't like go that close,
Maybe
but
not call your park Hershey Park. And
instead of Hershey Park, yeah.
Hershey Park, that kind of thing. Just, I mean, I maybe wouldn't do that. You don't want to draw
I
unwanted
wouldn't call it Field
attention.
of Hope instead of Field of Dreams. Like,
But if you're going to go see the Statue of Liberty, you can literally say you're going to see the
going to see the
Statue of
Statue of
Liberty.
Liberty. But I probably wouldn't call it the Statue of Freedom either. Like,
Yeah.
or come up with a Statue of Freedom in your town. Yeah. And
Yeah.
well, I think, okay, here's where I'd probably, if let's say you did create your town as um what did I call it earlier? What, it was a town I said earlier. Oh, where the greatest battle nobody's ever heard of in the Civil War.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. So that's your town's claim to fame. And maybe you do have a statue there, not a woman, not holding a book. Um, but maybe you do have a statue of, say, like the general who led the charge or something like
Mhm.
that. And people call it like a statue of freedom in
Mhm.
respect of the town legend and the Statue of Liberty. I think you could probably get away with that than necessarily, just having like a woman who's holding a book with a crown and somehow you call it the Statue of Freedom because it looks fun in your town. Like, and it's on the water by your town. Like that, people would be like, come on.
I think you know that Paris isn't the only place that has a Eiffel Tower looking tower.
No,
I think they weren't even the first one. There's a place in England, somewhere in either England or Scotland, and they're like, we whose
the
tower
Eiffel
came
Tower.
first, and theirs was actually first, but the Eiffel Tower is
And I mean, we're not the only people who have a Statue of Liberty. Like Paris gave it to us, but they
yeah,
actually still have a Statue of Liberty there.
yeah.
So, like that's the other thing too. And I like three flags over South Bend. Like we can go down a rabbit hole of coming up with crazy names that are close to, but not quite, not the Space Needle, but the Star Needle.
Sometimes you're reading a book and you're just like, I know what that is. I
Right.
see you.
Oh, I like for the Fifel Tower, Regina does say it would work in a humorous parody,
That
which
would
I
be,
do agree with.
I
So,
love that Eiffel Tower. Cute.
yeah, not the CNN Tower, but the like TNC Tower or something. I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole because those would be great. So yeah, I would say just make sure whatever you're naming it, and I think this goes for anything you're naming in your town. Just check and see if it actually exists. I think
Yeah.
that's like a good rule of thumb, and
If
figure
it's
out how
something,
close you
yeah.
are to that.
If it's something super generic, like wow, there's like 90 of them in about all
Yeah.
50 states and several countries, then you're like, I can just use this name and say that it's this town's that thing,
Or
because
if you're naming
it's a
something,
very generic thing. So don't stress out about that.
was it like the Coffee Bean Spot,
Hmm.
and somebody else has Coffee Bean Spot, you might be okay with adding the.
Yeah.
Or maybe spell bean a little bit differently, something. Um, Sometimes I look at stuff like if it's in another country, you can sometimes get away with it a little bit easier, depending on where your readership is. But yeah, just always test that out and just do a Google search. It might save you a world of heartache.
Mhm.
Not just with landmarks, businesses, towns, surprisingly characters. You would be amazed how many times a name pops into my head and then I go look it up and I'm like, I love this name. It sounds so great together. And I look it up and it's like a model or an actor or a
Yeah.
musician. So even just a quick Google search sometimes for that. Um, I think I told the story. I woke up one morning. I was like, "Oh my god, this would be the best name for a town. Like this would be so great for like a romance like this." I was like, I was building out places and characters and people and everything, and I was like, it just rolls off the tongue. Like it feels like it should already be a town. And I went to search for it, and the reason it sounded like that was because it was Everwood, and there was a TV show called Everwood.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep. When I was naming Ethereal Falls, I at first I was like, ooh, mystic. Mystic sounds so nice. There's an actual mystic. I was like, yeah, no, we're going
Mhm.
another
Yeah.
we're gonna go to another direction, especially because it's relatively close to where my fictional town is. Everybody's like, is this just mystic? I'm like,
Mhm.
no.
So yes, always a good Google search will save you a world of heartache. Uh, and if you want to make sure that you're not just looking in areas that are near you, you can always do the incognito tab and search that way, because I feel like that gives you a broader spectrum of looking versus like, Google sometimes wants to just tell you restaurants that are by you. So yeah. All right, guys. Do we know what we're talking about next month? Because we had this conversation this.
I don't know. I don't think we know.
Any suggestions before we leave for what we could possibly talk about next month? We do know that going into the fall, we do have some things planned for like coming up with the lore and like different things for your town. But next month's kind of like an in the middle, not quite fall kind of town. So it was a little short, Esther, because we jumped in kind of a little bit late and there wasn't as many questions.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit shorter, I think. Were there
Yeah.
some suggestions from the last time?
I think there were. Remember, I said we need to go back and look and see what all the suggestions were.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. JC said, "Oh, wait, another question." Although, did you say, "Ooh, wait, another question," because you just want, um, you just want to keep us here? Esther, ooh, that's an interesting thing. Summer festivals, concerts,
Yeah.
local artists. That could be adding famous people to your town. That could be interesting. Yes, summer stuff. I think it was, which could be possible. Um, Why did I read this like I should be reading like either Old Town or like a judge? Like, what say you about creating a town that was built over an actual town that was a landmark? I probably wouldn't do it. Um, just because I wouldn't want the headache of people like either referencing the other town or things like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't. That was an actual landmark. I don't know that I would do that because I don't
Yeah.
know that I would want to upset people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like no, I definitely wouldn't do that. Like as in Salem, yeah, I wouldn't do it. Mm-mm. Adjacent to, down the street from, around the
Next
corner,
door.
even, but on top of, nah. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
No, no. Especially like things like that have such historical significance. Mm-mm. Yeah, I just feel like that's opening yourself up for some crazy. Esther said farmers markets, the classic summary things that happen during summer school break.
Yeah.
So that was, oh, wait, hold on. I think somebody else said they have another question, actually. Oh, Sky. I have a question too, actually. So I love that we are ready to go and then y'all came with the questions. That's so
You're like,
awesome.
don't.
Yeah, I think Regina's agreeing with us because she said that's complicated. You would have to create a new town and then create a history for the old town. Not sure if I do it. Think Seattle and the hidden city underneath it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I said town over town feels like double the work. So yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is this the question? Seeing landmarks are generally respected. What are your thoughts about doing the smexy stuff in a landmark?
If it's fictional and I made it up,
You do what you do. And like you're saying that like people don't do it at real landmarks.
yeah.
I mean, haven't you ever seen that? What is it? It's a Friends episode where, and not that this is a full landmark, but the idea is like, where's they're asking questions like, where's the craziest place that have done this maxi? And Ross was like, Disneyland. It was the only thing that didn't have a line. It's a small world after all. Or something crazy like that. So I mean, so yeah, you do what you do. And this guy's like, don't forever. I mean, we'd love to, but also no. Um,
Now, I will say the only time I do something that's similar to Town Over Town is that I do write the historical, like I have outlines for the historical stories of the towns when they are first developed. And then like for Ethereal Falls, it's not the first iteration of the world. So where Ethereal Falls is a special place because of the second world that we're on the fourth iteration of the world. So these are the cozy parts of all the bad stuff happens in the other stories. All the people die in the fantasy stories. But I've only built
Wait, did
that
I
lore
know all the
because
people died?
I actually have a couple of those stories written. I need to get on books 2 and 3 of those. Anyway,
Did we know all the people died?
a lot of people die. Things
Y'all
happen.
get on this.
The Fae really have to step in, and some of them don't want to.
Get on Nia's story. She got all kind of stuff.
But the part that we get is all the fun, cute, cozy stuff.
She got the background, y'all. Esther did say, I mean, is it for voyeuristic reasons? Is it fun? Is it fun the schnook?
Is it for the shock, maybe?
Oh, for the shock. Okay, that could be it. Do the characters love or hate the landmark? Like, yeah, those be good ideas. I mean, what? No, never. Ooh, not landmarks, not me. No way. Veronica King's Down the Well has a special town world under the boring surface town.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like, and I think that that's
the Alice in Wonderland
good,
retelling side of it. Yes, it's very
and I
very
think that's a good point. If you want to, like, say you wanted to do your town with the idea that it was built on top of Salem because of everything that happened in Salem, the witchcraft or the trials or whatever, create another town. Like, don't
yes,
put it on top of Salem, maybe put it on top of like I don't know, Saraville or something, where this is where all of this tragedy happened. There was like a bunch of witches. Maybe it was like a town that resembled, and I would even say like, this is the town, everybody knows Salem, but they don't know Saraville or something like that. So it gives like that idea that it has that same history. And now you've built this town on top of that, because then you're not running into like actual people that would be like, oh my God, she put it down on top of Salem, but you are getting the same effect.
Yeah.
So yeah. And that's the difference, I think, with what Veronica did as well as what Nia's doing, is that they created the original town and then put a town on top of it, type of something. So they just created 2 towns in the same spot is what they did. All the above, Esther. I don't know. I didn't think that far ahead. Hello, Mama Maggie. We're wrapping up here. JC said, okay, so that question was in reference to my paranormal series idea. I was thinking about making her mother connected to the Salem witch trials, and the town she's in has a connection to Salem. So yeah, so I would just let it go.
Yeah, and I would say maybe she fled Salem, and maybe there was a whole group of women and people who fled Salem. They created this community, and maybe the community was found out. It got burned to the ground, and now, but you've now created your own. You didn't do that to Salem where people actually might feel offended.
And you can do that. Like, there were plenty of people who did flee Salem, so like referencing that wouldn't be a big deal. It's the same as there are plenty of fictional books that reference like Civil War or the Alamo or something like that. Yeah. And like, this is a descendant from somebody who fought at the Alamo, or this is like someone who like their ancestor owned land during the Civil War or something like that, and then they're picking up now in the future. So you can do something like that and just reference it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Morgan said, what if it's a neighboring town to Salem?
Yep.
So something like that. Yeah. And the magic from Salem bled over. So yeah. I can work with that. Awesome. Glad we got you some help there. And Regina's agreeing, yes, create a different town 10 miles away from Salem where the persecuted witches went to live and hide, which is why no one knows about it. So, yeah.
You may say, Regina, yes.
I know. And that's fun. I
Yeah.
think that type of history would be fun to dig into where you're like,
Mhm.
nobody ever heard about this story, like this town and like all the things that they got into. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
sounds exciting. Uh, so yes, even Sky's like, yes, I like that. So yeah, new coven in the new town. And Regina's just saying, yeah, you were saying the same things I just said. So yeah, okay, that works so much better. Actually gives me more creative liberties. Thank you. Awesome sauce. And Nia is psychic. I love it. Mama Maggie also added in when I was writing the Servants of the Moon series, I spent so much time on Google Earth Street
Mhm.
View in Nova Scotia, so the landmarks would be
Oh,
correct. And I found through old records the site of a fire that fit well in my book because it was actually where I had the wolf pack setting in the 1600s.
I love that, Mama Maggie.
The in real life overlap can be fun and intriguing if it's done right. Absolutely. We do
Mhm.
have lots of powers. We are our own Mercedes. Uh, all right, guys, we are going to take off. We hope we answered all of your questions. We will be back. I think we're regular again next month, the first Saturday of August.
Yes, we should be. I'm trying. I mean, I don't see any, or I don't know of anything that might prohibit that. That would
Yeah.
be August 4th, or
That
no,
sounds
August
about
3rd.
right. Yeah,
August 3rd.
yeah. I think we're back to regular for August. So hopefully, if that changes, we will let you know. But we should be back in. Maybe we'll be talking about end of summer events or like bringing in famous people into your town.
Yeah,
So I know I have some famous people coming to my town. Do you have famous people coming to
I
your
do have
town?
famous people that come into my town. Do you
Mm.
want to talk about famous people? Creating famous people. What can famous people do?
It might be fun.
It might be fun. Do I have? I have famous people I can show too. So yeah,
I don't have famous people I could show, but I do have famous people like flyers and different things
yeah.
that
I
we
have
put
the flyers. I
together.
well, you've seen kind of a little bit what I do. I had an
Uh-huh.
example in the Ravens Cove story
We
that might
could,
happen
because
sometime later. So I
JC's
have them for
now through
Ethereal
and
Falls as
creating
well.
musical bands and such. So
Mhm.
yes, I do have a whole band. Actually, I have two whole bands. Uh,
I have what will be soon a band. They don't know it yet till those stories come up, but you'll see.
yeah. Uh,
Right now, I have a
well,
town loot. A town loot. His story is going to come up when I get to the sisters story, and he's going to put together some stuff, and he's going to call back one of their a famous person, and you know he might have some opportunities, but those opportunities might take him away, and he might decide that does he want to go with those opportunities, or does he want to stay with the girl of his dreams? Choices, choices.
ooh. Uh, I also added, how about adding in paranormal mystic elements to your small town as an idea for that we could do? Which that could work leading into something else that we
Mm-hmm.
have planned a little later. So yes. Esther's also like, I need to create some music artists. I do have a famous but reclusive pottery artist. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Halloween is coming up. Uh, oh, and T Marie came in. Hello, honey. Um, Mama Maggie, is this for us
Oh,
as far as doing something,
creative
or is
elements.
this for someone like who just wants to plot?
Oh, she yes. I think this might be an idea for us.
Have you
To talk
tried
about the
micro? Uh,
micrograms, the elements, the the dirt and the
Yeah.
trees and the things, what your community looks like and the water and all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
animals and that kind of
Okay.
stuff. That's getting into the nitty-gritty.
Oh,
That's
oh, that's what she said. I had a short story once where the pollen of a specific plant turned people into shifters.
I love that. I love that. Mhm.
Okay. Like world building around natural elements. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bringing
Interesting.
natural
Yes,
elements
guys.
into your stories.
Mm. Well, I think like okay. Yeah, I think I can say this because we never did anything with it. Des and I had this idea of creating a town around a hot springs or around a natural spring. I don't remember if it was a hot springs or not, but we had this idea of building a town around a spring.
Mhm.
So, like, that could be like building something around a natural
Yeah.
element.
Yeah.
Mm.
I have something that's coming. It won't happen. You won't see it. No, actually, are you going to see it in the freebie? You might see some hints of it in the freebie, but when we get to the kids at the college, the freebie is about one of the teachers at the college. And if you know about Ethereal Falls, not everybody's human. So the teachers at the college are not humans like us. They're human, but they're mythics. So the freebie story is that one of the teachers meets somebody, and so you're going to see him a little shifty. It's very cool, and but he teaches at the university where he's teaching young people how to do these things. So you will see. If you look at the map, you'll notice something right next to the college. I tell you, there's Easter eggs in the map. The map, I was telling everybody that my map is grows as the books go along. So when you get the next book, you'll see some cute little Easter eggs. You'll know them. If you know them, you know them when you see them. Um, and so every time a book comes out, I hope to have something a little extra added, something that will be about the story. But if you look at the university, where the university is, only thing you see is a building and a lake.
So maybe it's like what Mama Maggie's saying. There is a cave in Mexico where the water is practically ammonia. What if the
Mhm.
mineral springs were enchanting?
Ooh, I love
So
that.
maybe it's similar to that. Or even what is it? Outlander. I was like
Mhm.
I was singing the theme song in my head.
Outlander.
They have what is it? They end up somewhere for Jamie to heal. And in the basement, I think it is, there's supposed to be like this pool of water that they go into. And it's supposed to have healing properties. And then later Claire finds out she's pregnant when she had been told, like in the real world, that she couldn't get pregnant or something like that, or it'd
Mhm.
be difficult for her to get pregnant, or she'd never been able to get pregnant. And so it's like this idea that maybe the healing waters, and
Oh.
there you go, Sky. There's a natural landmark that people got smacks in. At least I believe they did. So yeah, there you go. So options. All right, guys, we are going to head out. I know we said that like 17 times, but we're actually going to do it today. I've got the in stream already clicked. We will see you guys again in August. And until then, if you have any questions, by all means, always reach out to us either on social media or leave your questions in the comments below. We will go ahead and check those out. And like, we love talking small town world, as you can see. So we will easily go down a rabbit hole with you. So until next time, we will talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.